number one. WAEB number one. WAEB number one. WAEB number one.
If you ask me, I'll tell you what you want to know. If you're crying, I will try to make the tears go. But if you're lying and trying to make me blue, you'll never find the love that's true. Listen to me, and I'll explain what I have done. If I had my way, you never would have hurt anyone. So stop your lying and trying to make me blue. You'll never find love that's true. But if you're lying and trying to make me blue, you'll never find a love that's true. If it happens that we should part and go our own way, there is one thing to you that I'm going to say. Don't start your lying and trying to make me blue. You'll never find love that's true. Love that's true. Love that's true.
79 of WAEB with Rod Wolfe in the Sunday Night Hall of Fame, and our salute to local hits and regional hit records and groups. And those are the Shillings, and they hailed from the Emmaus, Allentown area with Lying and Trying, a decidedly British-sounding record. And with us in the studios, we have Dale Schneck, who's the Morning Call newspaper movie critic. Now, back in the 60s, Dale, you were very active with music locally.
Yes, Rod. Had the Shillings and later on managed a group known as Dooley Invention. And they were called Dooley. That was Steve Mulchaney and a lot of other people in that group. And a group known as Bella Wood, Rod Gilkison. I think that was about it. I didn't have a lot of people at one time. We concentrated on quality.
You had good groups.
We tried.
Who were the members on the record Lying and Trying, which we just played?
It was Tom Ross, who was the lead singer and guitar, Mark Jennings on bass and singing, and Ned Early, who was the drummer.
Okay, I have Al Mikaloff.
Al Mikaloff. He was the lead guitar on the first two records we had out, on Fontana, which was a label that was owned by Mercury Records. And he was the lead guitarist on Barbara Ann, which is the very first record we had, and then a second record called Just For You, Baby.
Now, this record, Lying and Trying, was on Three Rivers, I believe.
And that was a label that was distributed by Atlantic Atco. Actually, it was a small label that they owned, and the first, and I think probably only release was Lying and Trying on
that label.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it was a big local hit. Also big in New England, wasn't it? It was number one in Boston for quite a while.
Yeah, that was kind of a kick, because I forget where we were driving one time, and the station WBZ really has a lot of power. And at night, we could pick it up here in the Lehigh Valley, and we had been told it was being played there. And I think the greatest thrill was hearing that, number one in Boston.
It was number one for quite a few weeks. Tom Ross wrote the song, if I'm not mistaken, and the flip side of it, Children and Flowers, written by Jackie DeShannon.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a surprise guest in the studio tonight. Hub Wilson dropped by to say hello. Hub, come on, slide in here. Hub was a member of the Shillings. I guess you could call them, maybe the second generation of the Shillings.
I came in, I guess, shortly after Lying and Trying. We started promoting the record pretty heavily, doing some TV shows in Philly. I guess we did one in Highlight in Connecticut, or
High Lit was out of Philadelphia.
We did some shows in Boston and Connecticut.
Oh,
I don't
did you?
remember the disc jockeys' names. Hub, you'd have to know that.
So I got in on the promotional end of it after the record was already out.
Now, Hub Wilson's name is familiar. You're with a group called Ticket.
I have a band Ticket that plays the area of 3-4 nights a week, and I'm also working and have been working with a band from the 60s, in fact, The Limits. We have an album out that came out about a year ago. We have our second video is just completed, which was underwritten by Martin Guitars. That's presently at MTV on their basement tapes, so they should be playing that shortly, I hope.
We'll see that on MTV.
I hope so.
Dale or Hub, do you know where Tom Ross, Mark Jennings, those folks are today?
Tom Ross is still writing and performing. He's in Nashville with his wife Gina. And the last song that I had heard that Tom had written was on a Johnny Cash album. And now, I think Hub said before we went on the air, he's now working with Alabama.
He's working with members from Alabama as far as writing. He's been writing some stuff for them, and they really like his writing.
How about Mark Jennings? He's still around?
Mark is in Salem, Oregon, and I had seen him about a year ago. He came in for a high school reunion, and he's got the itch again, and I think he wants to record, so he's turned his family room into a kind of a mini recording studio, and I think he'll have something out probably soon.
Mark and Tom both were Emmaus natives, right?
That's correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Jeff Davies was from Copley. He was a member also of the Shillings at one time. Right?
Yes, I don't know what Jeff is doing now. I don't know if he's in music. I don't believe he is, but I think he's still in the area.
In the record industry, but not on the other end. He was working at Allentown Record Company for several years, I think in the pressing department, and they folded, so I don't know what he's doing.
What we're trying to do is name as many people as we can from the past, try and find out what they're doing. That's the whole idea of the show tonight. See where some of the musicians are that were popular during the 60s and even back into the 50s.
Ned Early, the drummer on Lying and Trying, has his own construction company in Boston. So if anyone wants to build a home in Boston, call Ned.
Flash a copy of Lying and Trying and get a special price.
That's right.
I've got another Shillings record I'd like to play tonight, and this was the one that Dale mentioned was on Fontana. You were swinging some heavy deals here, Dale.
Partially. It was some credit should also go to a former disc jockey at this station, Gene Kay, who introduced us to the vice president of A&R at Mercury, who was Shelby Singleton. And he heard the Shillings and said he'd like to do something with them. So that's how the first two records came about. And Just For You, Baby was the second one that we had out on Fontana.
Do you believe they put you on Fontana because you had an English name and you had an English sound?
Yes. In fact, the Shillings were originally called the Strangers. As soon as I started to manage them, I thought we ought to change the name to something a little bit more interesting than just the Strangers. And I think that did appeal to Mercury Records. And they had Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders. That's the only other group that I recall
English,
on Fontana. Yeah. There may have been others, maybe listeners know, I don't recall. But I think one of the key things that helped us with the big labels was believing in publicity and image and trying to sell something just beyond the music, as something that would go visually as well on television as just hearing it on the radio. And I think that worked.
By the way, the Trogs also were on
You're right.
Fontana. We want to ask some of the people you were associated with, your producers.
Well, Wes Farrell did Just For You, Baby and Barbara Ann, and he went on to produce The Partridge Family for television. And Hub, you had mentioned another group before that I forgot.
Every Mother's Son, Come On Down to My Boat, Baby.
And later we worked with Neil Sedaka, and then Neil introduced us to Donnie Kirshner. And actually, just as the group was splitting up because of the military draft, and ironically, we had signed with Don Kirshner to do a movie in England. The movie was made, but they had to fabricate a group because the Shillings were not together anymore. And a young lady who was picked for that group in England has gone on to some bigger and better things, and her name is Olivia Newton-John.
You know I've been wanting you my whole life through. Now that I'm your kind, I'm gonna live and die for only you, baby, baby. Now you're gonna know all the ways I've meant to be so. You're gonna see I save all the love in me just for you, you, baby. Just for you.
79 WAEB Sunday Night Hall of Fame with our salute to local hits. Shillings, Just For You, Baby, from 1966. Good record, produced by Wes Farrell, written by Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil. Would you like to talk about how many hundreds of hits maybe they wrote, Dale? I don't think we'd have the rest of the night.
No, we were, I think, lucky to get that material, and Wes picked it, and I think that was a smart move.
Do you care to say anything about what's happening today? Dale, you're out of music totally now?
Well, I was mentioning to Hub that although I am no longer managing groups, I manage actors, and one of the actors who's just completed a feature movie that'll be out in the fall cut a song for the film, so I was back in the recording studio last February, and his name is Greg Lobb, and he's from Whitehall, and now Greg has got the bug to cut an album, but I think that's some time off yet, so I'm really not in the music business.
Last time I talked to you a number of years ago when I was doing a show similar to this without the guests, you mentioned you were managing a group called D.B. Liddy. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Remember?
I had forgotten about D.B.
Yeah, how about
Liddy.
that? Dress British, look Irish, and think Yiddish.
That is correct.
That's what it stood for.
That's why you're the guy who knows about the oldies. I even managed them and had forgotten. And that's no disrespect to them. It's just that I have a bad memory.
Dale, I want to thank you for taking time out from your busy schedule. I know you got to run. And we always enjoy reading your movie reviews.
Rod, thank you very much for having us on, and thanks for playing the Shillings record.
I wanted to ask Dale, what's the French word for oxygen? Do you know?
Why do you do this to me over the air?
Well, you were a French teacher at one time, right?
Yeah. Don't ask me that question. I'm sure I'm going to louse up. Oxygen did not come up in conversation very often.
Not conversational French.
No.
The reason I mention that is we just found out that a French label, which is oxygen in French, and I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, Oxygen or something like that. It's similar. They're going to release a 4-song EP in France from the Limits material, including the soundtrack from the new video, 2 songs from the old album, and another song. So maybe we'll be going to France in the future. I don't know.
Dale, I know you were ready to run out, but when I talked to you a couple of months ago, you were telling me that you got contacted by some record labels, independents, looking for Shillings material.
Yeah, I don't understand it, Rod. In fact, since I spoke with you that a couple of weeks ago, whatever, I've gotten more letters from independent labels saying they were looking for unreleased material that we had done in studios and B-sides to put in albums. I must say very honestly, because I never heard of most of these organizations and they were not affiliated with big labels, we didn't take the offers very seriously. But maybe something is going on in the business that I don't know about, and that probably could
Well, there's a resurgence of the 60s. Everybody right now is focusing on the 60s music, and that's probably why. And the Shillings got some good stuff. And we're going to take a short break and return with a Easton Martins Creek area legend.
WAEB Music 790-790. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Cry and you'll cry alone. But if you cry, you'll fill my heart with sadness. So don't cry on your own. Go leave me alone, 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 alone. You're gone, and now I see the darkness, the past is now a memory. Stop, don't go and leave me waiting. Someone may come along. Please don't treat me wrong. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. Goodbye, I guess I'll see you someday when your tears have gone.
79 WAEB.
You came on riding on a white dove wings, wrapped in your beauty. You never felt the same. I'm wanting me because you always have. You think that nothing means nothing ever bad is to the children and flowers who play by the hours and never have to win. Because when no one is choosing, well, no one is losing, and everyone plays in the wind. And now you're feeling things you don't understand. The tears are falling in the palm of your hand. Your little white dove, she is crying too. She knows that you're in love, and I'm in love with you. Here's to the children and flowers who play by the hours and never have to win. Because when no one is choosing, well, no one is losing, and everyone plays in the wind. Here's to the children and flowers, children and flowers, children and flowers.
You're listening to Rod Wolfe on the Lehigh Valley's original Sunday Night Hall of Fame.
WAEB.
The greatest hits of all time from the station that made them famous. WAEB.